Hi everyone, my name is Sachin and today we are going to talk about how to give an effective presentation as a face-to-face fundraiser. I'm going to share with you some tips, the flow of the presentation and what are some of the things that you need to keep in mind to have an impactful presentation. So let's get started. These are the following steps that one has to make sure that they keep in mind while engaging with the prospect. The most important thing, or the first one, is approach, followed by introduction, then talking about your organization and the campaigns, closing, and then say thanks to the donor and goodbye. So without wasting much time, let's get started on how to ensure that you give a good impactful presentation. Here is the first step. The first step is to approach the person, to stop them so that you are able to talk to them about the organization. A few things to keep in mind is you should have your ID card, wear the jacket, t-shirts of the organization, and this is something which is very important. This is your Bible. Do not go to the field without a presenter. This will help you to give a much more impactful presentation by showing images and facts. So on approach, what is important is you need to be absolutely confident. Don't be afraid, don't be scared. The maximum that the other person will do is not stop and walk away. Nobody's going to abuse you, nobody's going to hit at you. So just go out there, stop as many people as you can. And the more effective you are in your approach, the maximum number of people you'll be able to talk to. Here is an example of how you would approach somebody. Excuse me ma'am, my name is Sachin. Would you have 2 minutes of your time? I want you to talk about an organization called Doctors Without Borders. Pause, see what the response is. If they say yes, great. Start the presentation. If they say no, fine, thank you ma'am, bye. Close it like that. Just because somebody doesn't stop doesn't mean that you have to be rude to them. Let them go. They might be busy with their own things. Coming to the second part, I think when somebody stops, you have to give introduction about yourself and the organization that you are representing. So here is how you would go about doing it. Excuse me, ma'am, my name is Sachin. Can I know your name, please? After the person has said the name, get to the point that we are representing an organization called Doctors Without Borders. Have you heard of them? I'm glad that you are aware of it. As you know, it's one of the most important international organizations working across 70 countries over the last 50 years, and it has been working on medical humanitarian issues. We have been working in India as well over the last 20 years, and I would like to talk about some of the projects that we have been doing and why we would like your support. The next part of the presentation is where you get into the key elements of the projects. What you would need to do is roll your presenters, take them through 1 or 2 projects. Say for example, if you are in Bombay, talk about the projects that we have been doing in Maharashtra. Things that you need to keep in mind while talking about the content of the organization. I think you should focus on what is the problem that the organization is trying to solve in that project. What is the intervention that we are doing in that project and what are the impacts? I think these 3 things are absolutely crucial while representing and talking about any work that your organization does, because that gives them a clear picture of, okay fine, this is how the organization operates, this is what the organization has been able to do. It will inspire them to be able to make a thoughtful decision whether to support the organization or not. And I think when you are introducing about the projects, or when you are talking about the projects, make sure that your voice changes while engaging with them. So when you are talking about problem statement, pick up a fact. Emphasize on that fact. Ask a question to the prospect about the issue, whether they are aware of something like this or not. Then talk about our intervention, and then again when we are talking about the impact that we are able to create, highlight that point very categorically, saying that in 2021, these are the number of people that we were able to treat. These are the number of lives that we were able to save. I think when you put those facts in front of them, that's when they get to know, okay, this organization is doing great. So that's what the introduction will be, that's what the programmatic work or the main content part of the organization will focus on. Nobody has a lot of time, so while we are working on 6 projects, you might not get the time to talk about all of them. What you do is pick 1 or 2, maximum 3, very briefly talk about it, then move on to the other parts of the presentation. But I think this is the place where you should be able to give an idea to the prospect that the work that we do is absolutely crucial, important. They should be inspired by it. Only once they feel inspired by the work that you do, they will take a call to donate that money on a monthly basis or not. So make sure that you put a lot of effort in communicating about this, and one way to get better at talking about this stuff is if you have read it well. So make sure that you read about the campaigns, the projects, be absolutely clear in your head what are we doing in each state, what is the problem we are solving, intervention of MSF, and then the impact. So this is the meat of the presentation. Focus on this and ensure that you do it really well. Once you have done that, come to the next part. I think it is always important to get a reaction from the other person. What do they feel about it? So maybe asking a question like, so what do you think about the work MSF does in the country, sir? What is your opinion on that? And I'm sure the kind of work that we do, the response is going to be quite positive. They would end up generally saying, it's really great that what you guys are doing, it's nice to know all of that. After this part of the presentation is done, that is where you come to closing. And I think this is where you should be able to make that connect of why you are standing on the street every day and talking to so many people. That is what we talk in terms of the presentation flow, it is called closing. So now when we are talking about closing, what you should do is the work that MSF has been doing all over the world, you should be able to tell them why is it possible. Why we have been able to work for the last 50 years and why we have been able to work in some of the difficult places of the world. That's when you talk about, this is an example of how you would close and make that link. As you have seen, sir, the kind of work that we have been doing over the last 20 years, and the work that we do is absolutely important. The people we work with are really marginalized. The reason we are able to do that is because we get support from people like you and me. There are 7 million people across the world who have been supporting us, and we would really like you also to come forward and support. Make that point very clear that if you are working in the country, we would expect the citizens of the country to come forward and support. Emphasize on the part that if they don't contribute, the work we do is not possible. And I think when you do that connection, when you make that connection, tell them that if we would not have had these supporters, we would not have been able to save lives. Whether our intervention in COVID, or just give some examples of the work that we have done. Say for example, COVID is very fresh in people's memories. Highlight the fact that MSF was active in Bombay, in Manipur, so that will make that connection more stronger. And then ask them questions. Would you be interested in supporting our cause? And then go ahead and explain how their monthly contribution matters to the organization, and say very clearly the reason we want you to support on a month-on-month basis is because we will have absolute clarity that over the next 12 months, 36 months, 3 years, 5 years, supporters like you are going to be there with us, and we'll be able to carry on the work. And I think it also gives you the opportunity to judge and see the kind of work we do. Through regular communications that we send to you, you'll be able to see the kind of impact it is making. And I think that 800 rupees or 1000 rupees every month that you give, at least when you go back home, you'll know that it is saving somebody's lives. So on that note, get them again back on the form, explain them the procedure of how they should sign up as a donor, and then close, greet and say thank you.